The weekend is coming to an end, as has the gloom and doom. And now we have a brief respite before we deal with a weather front, showers and thunderstorms, and then the wind machine gets turned on again. So we will take a look at the entire week ahead, as well as the long range, right here tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Which, if you'd like, you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast by simply doing your Amazon shopping using our referral link that's pinned to the top of the chat board or on the descriptor to this podcast. It's very easy. Just click on the link, do search, do your shopping. Amazon throws us a little bit of coin for sending you there, and it doesn't cost you a dime. So it's an easy and harmless way to support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, because if you do, we can keep commercials to an absolute bare minimum. The first thing I want to do is I want to switch sides. Okay, so now we've done that. So, Joe, this is a time of
Boom.
year. This is a time of year where we commemorate the viewing of the Ten Commandments and that famous scene. Ah, where's your Messiah now? Ah, I'm the frog. See, yeah.
You know what blows my mind? I didn't even realize it. I did some study of the film last night
Mm-hmm.
uh, on IMD. Gives you everything you'd want to know about
Right.
this. My hair is sticking up, Brady. 111. You know, my daughter. If you think it's the way it looks now. Earlier today, my daughter said, "My God, Dad, you look like Albert Einstein." Before I had a chance to fix it up a little bit, but the thing that blows my mind about the movie, Joe, is that Charlton Heston was only 5'8" tall. I'm 5'8", for God's sake. And Daka, who was played by Vincent Price, who 10 years later would play Egghead in Batman. Do you know how tall he was?
Vincent Price was not short.
6'4".
Yeah.
And supposedly in the movie, Charlton Heston was able to overtake and defeat and kill a man who was a full
Well,
80.
you wear high heels, that'll help you.
Well, I guess they was doing that or whatever,
Or
but
how, it's all about, camera angles and how they shoot them. They can easily make people look a lot. Actually, um, if you look at a lot of old movies, it's the same. Humphrey Bogart was not a tall man. So they would have to like make special shoes to give him an extra, you know, 3 or 4 inches in order so that he could be even with whoever he was playing next to. And if it was Ingrid Bergman in Casablanca or anybody else, so yeah, that's not unusual. What I just find, you know, watching that movie every every year. I watched some of it last night. I really didn't sit through the whole thing because you know how it ends. Um, so the thing is, I can't. Every year that I watch it, it just seems more and more campy to me in a lot of scenes. I mean, Ann Baxter as Nefertiri was so over the top in some
yeah,
scenes
yeah.
that you can't help but roll laughter. And by the way, um, there was an Egyptian queen named, but her name wasn't Nefertiri; it was Nefertiti. So
Really?
they no, seriously, they changed it to Nefertiri because of the
Quite obvious.
sexual inference
Yeah.
of of Nefertiti. So they never would have been able to just laugh that off. So they changed that. And I just kept. I was watching last night the scene with Vincent Price as he's got Joshua tied to the pillars and he's about to, whoop him to death.
You
And
stupid, stupid man.
I kept accepting. I kept expecting him to say, um, uh, go into egg mode and saying, "You're about to get an exceptional beating. It'll be extraordinary. Exterminate them." I
and
mean,
I and I pointed out to Renata last night. I pointed out. one of the actresses, and I said, "You know who that is?" And she said, "No, who is it?" And I said, "I'll give you a hint. Lily, Lily."
Oh,
Yeah,
Yvonne DeCarlo. No,
Yvonne DiCarlo, and
yeah,
she said, "How could she possibly stoop so low to do a to do a take a role like that after such a magnificent job that she did in this movie?" So I looked it up, and the
money.
reason that she
Not to
the
eat.
re- well, no, well, it was, yeah, the money, of course, but also apparently, Yvonne DiCarlo's wife was a famous stunt man, and he was in a very, very serious accident
Yes.
and had to be
Yeah,
hospitalized, and
her
so
husband.
she needed the money, and
Yeah.
so when the Munsters came along, she took it. She didn't, and she has said later on, she said, "I didn't honestly believe that it was going to last as long as it did, but she made money from it, and I guess she was able to pay the hospital bills." So you do what you if when it comes down to money, you do what you do.
You have to eat. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to eat.
The same thing,
You
I
know,
guess, with Vincent Price. You know, a magnificent role. He was one of the great character actors in terms of mystery, suspense. You know,
oh yeah. And
but
then he,
but
and
you know,
then the whole horror genre that
yeah,
he, basically embraced. Yeah, people forget. You hear about all these, you hear about some of the top stars that they've been, making these huge salaries, they're making $10 million a film or 20 million or whatever it is. That is like 0.001% of all the people that are in the acting industry, and everybody else is just basically, you know, maybe not everybody's working paycheck to paycheck, but still, and you could have a job and then you're done after 13 weeks or a couple of episodes or whatever it is, and then you're out, you're unemployed for 10 months
you,
because you're
you do
trying to
what you
find
have.
the next role.
You do what you have to do. And the other thing that was surprising to me, the whole slew of actors who went uncredited in the movie,
Oh
who are
yeah.
highly well known today, like Robert Vaughn, for example. I
Hmm.
don't know where the heck he was in the movie, but he's in there. Um, Barbara Eden's husband, Richard Ansara, another very well-known
Right.
actor. And
He
these are actors, and these are not just walk-on actors. I mean, these are people who have stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame much later after the movie was made, but
right.
they're in there. It's amazing. And one final note: Yul Brynner, when he found out that Charlton Heston was going to be in the movie and he was going to play Pharaoh to Charlton Heston's Moses, he immediately went on a weightlifting campaign. He started to buff up, so to speak, because he didn't want to be overshadowed by Charlton Heston. And as it turned out, after the Ten Commandments, um, Yul Brynner moved on to his next movie, The King and
The
I,
King and
and that's
I. So
why, and that's
off to
why he
a
looked
war.
so built up in that movie, was because of the preparations he made for the Ten Commandments.
Yeah. Well, and of course, this week they'll probably another one that's got like a huge cast is the greatest story ever told. Will probably be on, Turner. I think will probably have it somewhere along the line. One of my favorite parts in that movie is just, I mean, I love John Wayne, but he's up there at the crucifixion, and you know some people think that John Wayne was basically played himself. I would disagree with that to a large degree, but he's standing there as a centurion and just in a cameo, and he says, uh, "Truly, this was the Son of God." Total John Wayne mode. All right. Well, you had snow. Just to change the subject. You had snow
Yes.
on Friday night, and there were some areas if you were above 750 or 1,000 feet in northwest New Jersey and in the Hudson Valley and in the Catskills. You actually had a fairly sizable snowfall, and it fell at night, so it stuck.
Well, it didn't stick on the paved surfaces here, but the grass, the deck did have snow. How much snow did I receive? I think maybe a couple of tenths of an inch at most.
Hmm.
It was not anything that was really set. But I mean, again, you look out the window and you do it like a double take, like, oh, look at that. The grass was white, the deck was white. And when I went outside to walk the dog yesterday morning about 9 o'clock or 9:30, it was not raining or snowing; it was sleeting. And the first couple of steps on my in front of my front door were very slippery. I had to be very careful, and it was even an adventure going down the driveway to get the newspaper. So it was slick, it was slippery. I'm sure that on untreated roads there must have been a lot of fun trying to maneuver around because I'm sure it was rather slippery there. But by the time we got to like 11 o'clock or noon, most of the snow, well, the snow was still there on some of the colder surfaces, but the ice and the sleet was
Gone.
over, and it was a lot easier to walk around. There were some parts of the Hudson Valley, Venetia in Ulster County, 5 inches of snow,
Yeah.
and Monroe in Orange County. And by the way, Joe, Renata didn't. Monroe, we weren't having an argument, but she was talking about Monroe. I said, yeah, in Orange County. She said, no, in Rockland County. I said, no, it's in Orange County. Apparently, there's a Monroe in Rockland County, I guess. But there is most definitely a Monroe in Orange County, and the one in Orange got 3.5 inches of snow. I think up near High Point State Park, northwest New Jersey, Sussex
Right.
County, 6 inches of snow. So
Yeah.
it's crazy. So
Well, High
couldn't do it.
Point's pretty.
Couldn't do it in January or February
No,
or
of
even March,
course.
but we
You
did
do
it.
it
We did
now
it
in
in
April,
the second week of
naturally, of
April.
course, which is obviously the snow lovers lament. We actually had a pretty nice weekend here. Uh, got down to 28 this morning. It's I think I might have gotten to 70 today. It's 67 right now. I wasn't really paying close attention this afternoon, but it's been it was fairly sunny from the get-go this morning, and yesterday, yesterday actually was kind of cool. Didn't get out of the 50s, and we had a gusty wind, but we had some sunshine, which kind of took the sting out of the air a little bit. But tomorrow we'll probably get up well into the 70s ahead of this next cold front that's coming through, and temperatures, the gloom and doom is done. We did manage to get to that northerly wind today, and you could see the clouds just break up in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England from west to east, although it's taken a lot longer as you go east. But the dry air is finally taking hold. That should lead to a warmer day tomorrow, but now we've got another cold front coming down from what's going to be a strengthening storm eventually in eastern Canada. So we may get some showers and thunderstorms, may get some severe weather in parts of the Ohio Valley and into the Appalachians late tomorrow afternoon. You might get some showers and storms moving through the Northeast and Mid Atlantic states tomorrow night. And then the wind machine is going to be cranking yet
Yep,
again.
unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. I was
I
thinking maybe
probably have,
with the mixing that you could probably get, it'd be 20 to 30 with dust to 40.
that it's somebody. I made a comment about this on Facebook about the winds coming back late Tuesday through basically the balance of the week. Although the worst or the highest winds will be probably on Tuesday into Wednesday. But geez, the guy, he said a couple of things on Facebook. He didn't say it. It was not unexpurgated, so to speak, but you could tell that he had enough. Everybody, I think, has had enough of the
Yeah.
wind this particular winter and early spring. But here we go again, another round of wind coming our way for this upcoming week as well.
Yeah, actually, the whole East Coast is going to be windy from Maine all the way down into northern Florida. So that's it's a fairly large system that's going into eastern Canada and strengthening to create all this. Welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight, and for those of you who are watching in the background, we welcome you too with open arms. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We're here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35. We're also, by the way, on all the various podcast outlets like Spotify and uh, you know Apple Podcasts, and there's a whole bunch of places that podcasts call home. So if you can't find us on YouTube or you want to listen to us in the car, well, you certainly could put YouTube on, but you could also go to Spotify and do it that way. So if you like the show tonight, hit the like button. Scott Briller, thank you for hitting super chat tonight. We appreciate it, and yes, happy Passover. Happy Easter, which is next Sunday. Today is Palm Sunday, and you know, and hope everybody has a safe holidays. No matter what you are celebrating.
And by the
Um,
way, stick around. Those of you who are on the chat board right now or watching right now, stick around till the end of the show because I have something special that you may be interested in, especially if you're into snow or winter weather. In fact, what I'm going to put on for you, it may actually make a few of you cry when we do it. But that's at the
yeah,
end of our that's the end of our show. And I've mentioned this before. I'll mention it again, Joe, because of the fact that the moon, the full moon, the first full moon of spring. The rules for Easter is the first full moon of spring that occurs the Sunday after the first spring full moon, the Paschal moon, is Easter. And last night we had a full moon. It occurred at 8:22 in the evening. So you say to yourself, well, if they occurred on Saturday, today should have been Easter Sunday, right? Well, no, because in terms of Greenwich Mean Time, the full moon occurred at 12:22 a.m. on Sunday today, and so as a result of that, they said, well, if it happened in Europe, the old world on Sunday, we have to wait until next Sunday for Easter. But interestingly, you show how close things are sometimes in terms of minutes. Had the moon turned full 23 minutes earlier and had occurred at 11:59 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, it would have been yesterday, Saturday, which would have made today
today would have
Easter
been Easter
Sunday.
Sunday.
But it said, we have to wait another week for Easter Sunday to arrive. Passover, of course, occurred officially last night.
All right. So, on that note, we can check the watches and mornings map up, and there's not a whole lot happening here. Certainly in the east, it's very quiet. We have some wind advisories up in parts of Arkansas and northeast and north central Texas. We have a few areas in the plains with red flag warnings, as well as in the southwest, and we've got some wind advisories and some high wind warnings up for parts of the Dakotas, northeastern Wyoming, and southeastern Montana, and a handful of winter weather advisories up in the coastal counties that border Lake Superior on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and a couple of counties in northeastern Minnesota. And as we look at the satellite loop, you can see the rotation that is east of Cape Cod and the clearing skies that have taken place behind it. Most of New York State now has gone mostly clear. Same for Pennsylvania. New Jersey is almost there, starting to clear out on Long Island. But we already see clouds. There's a bit of a warm front that is setting up across Michigan down to Ohio, and that's the cloud cover that you see there and moving fairly quickly eastward. That's probably going to come through overnight, and then we're going to transition into some of the warmer air that's to the southwest and south of this warm front for the daytime Monday. And then if you look up further north in the western Dakotas, we've got a spinning rotation there, another short wave, and this is going to be a low that's going to move across the northern Great Lakes and then strengthen when it gets into southeastern Canada. So that's going to be driving the potential for some showers and thunderstorms and maybe some severe weather in the Ohio Valley tomorrow, in the northern part of the Appalachians. And then we may just get some showers and storms here tomorrow night when that eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England when that front goes through.
Right, and in fact, we'll see. I'm sure you'll bring it up on SPC a little bit, but there's an area projected tomorrow or for late tomorrow and tomorrow evening over the Ohio Valley with a 5% possibility for tornadoes from the thunderstorm activity that's going to be moving in our direction. By the time it gets to our direction, the thunderstorms will have lost a lot of their punch, but still, there is a chance for a little bit of convection late tomorrow night here in the immediate tri state area.
All right, let's look at the radar tonight. And with that little warm front there, there actually are some showers across Michigan down to Ohio and into West Virginia. To the northeast, we've got the last band of precipitation in eastern Massachusetts and out over Cape Cod. That's moving to the east. Still seeing some leftover precip up in northern Maine and into New Brunswick. A little bit of precipitation also happening across North Dakota. Some rain showers there, and also some precip up there in northern Colorado. The west, though, is very, very quiet. No severe weather is forecast tonight, but you do see there are areas of general thunderstorms that are uh, forecast by the Storm Prediction Center in the western Great Lakes and also down into parts of the Ohio Valley. And then it's sort of this east west narrow band that runs from there westward through northern Missouri and back over into Colorado. Now, tomorrow, we are going to see a marginal risk. It has now been pushed a little bit further east into south parts of southeast. It's more into the edge of south, what defines south central and southeast Pennsylvania. Places like Harrisburg, Lancaster, they're sort of technically considered to be well, Harrisburg is considered south central. Lancaster, I would consider to be southeast, but I'm sure I'll get an argument from there with somebody on that. And we have that extending back into Ohio, and of course, you see that area of slight risk in southern Ohio, southwest Pennsylvania, western Maryland, northwestern Virginia, almost all of West Virginia, and northeastern Kentucky. And then there's that small area, as Joe pointed out, in southeastern Ohio and in western parts of West Virginia, where there is a 5% tornado risk. We'll jump to day three, and that's Tuesday into Wednesday, where we don't have any severe weather risk being indicated, but we do have 2 days in the long range. We have day five, where a small area of implied slight risk is being indicated for eastern Nebraska, Iowa, and northwest Missouri. Day six, we have a northeast southwest oriented area from southern Michigan southwestward through northern and central Indiana, central and southern Illinois, cuts Missouri right through the middle, southwest from there into Oklahoma and north central Texas. Again, here too, it's an implied slight risk. And precipitation this week, or for the next 7 days, which will take us to next Sunday night, not a whole heck of a lot. We're looking at a quarter of an inch or less, central New England down to northern Virginia, and then from there south, there's almost nothing. We do have an area of 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half back over Oklahoma and parts of southernmost Kansas and northwestern Arkansas. We also have some heavier precip in northeastern Minnesota, and then on the Canada side of Lake Superior, you see there's a fairly large area of an inch and a half plus. And then we also have up and down the Rockies, where we have anywhere from a quarter of an inch to 3/4 of an inch of liquid. Some of that's going to be snow. The same for the Wasatch and parts of the Southwest, but much of the West Coast is on the quiet side. So it's about another. It's all about another upper trough. This is what the upper air looks like tonight. You've got this cutoff low southeast of Cape Cod, and it's getting kicked eastward. That's what kind of saved it a bit for today was the fact that you've got this upstream system uh, right up here in the northern plains. You see that little cutoff low there in North Dakota. That was a little faster than it was modeled, say, around the middle part of last week. So that's just kind of acting as a kicker with this system to the south. And that is going to strengthen. And you can see it strengthening by just the expanding area of blue below normal pressures and heights. And the low vigorously cuts off east of Lake Superior and gets even more vigorous as it moves into Quebec. And then here comes that trough into the east. And this is going to be the shower, thunderstorm, and potential severe weather producer for Monday night. And then, of course, the trough settles into the east for a day or so, and then out it goes. And then you start to see energy dropping down into the southwest. And then there's another trough that runs into eastern Canada next Saturday. That may push another cold front through here, but I think if this were to verify, Easter Sunday looks pretty good. And then after that, we go kind of in a sort of a ridge in the west, east trough in the west type scenario. So that may open the door to possibilities of more severe weather down the road in in the let's call it the severe weather belts in the middle of the country. But that's out in the land of the long range. And here's a short range. There's our low going by. Here's a strengthening low. You know, it's a tight gradient, but it's not super tight. But it does extend. The gradient is actually fairly tight, Joe, going all the way down to North Florida come Tuesday and into Tuesday night. So I don't know if this is going to be wind advisory criteria. I think maybe for some places it might be, particularly in the Ohio Valley, and maybe down into the Appalachians, because the criteria is lower. The threshold for an advisory is lower as you go further south. But I still think with all the time of year, the mixing with the strong April sun, that we could see some 20 to 30, maybe some gusts up to 40 with this.
I would agree. I would agree. And it will all begin probably, I think, from midday Tuesday on through Tuesday into Wednesday. And then things will start petering out, but ever so slowly. We're still going to have a rather brisk and gusty wind to contend with on Thursday and probably Friday as well. I think you're right, Joe. I think the, excuse me, the two times when we will most likely have some significant precipitation here will be tomorrow night with the threat of showers and maybe even a thunderstorm or two. Tuesday is going to be one of those kind of days where I said in my Facebook forecast an ongoing risk of a passing shower. I'm not saying it's going to rain all day, but maybe in the morning and again maybe in the afternoon, a shower may pass on through in some spots, but it's not going to be particularly wet. If we do get wet, it's going to come with the few hours late tomorrow night with the cold front of showers and possible thunderstorm activity. And then, as you pointed out, the upper air showing another trough rapidly racing across the Great Lakes into the northeast for Saturday. So next Saturday, a chance for some showery conditions. But again, keep your fingers crossed. If everything keeps on moving, there should be just enough of a bubble of high pressure to build in and put us in a spell of dry and relatively mild weather in time for Easter Sunday 2025.
Yeah, and then just looking at, the weather across the country, I mean, it doesn't look, in spite of the fact that we do have SPC pointing out the potential for some severe weather, we're not seeing anything that looks like it would produce a widespread, massive outbreak. Uh, it's a little more, it'll be active, but it's um, not quite that active. And you see on the European thunderstorms Monday afternoon in southern Ohio and into eastern Kentucky and West Virginia, and even into Pennsylvania, and they sort of weaken to an extent. I don't think we're going to see severe weather. Although we could see a thunderstorm with this front when it goes by. And then you got the upper trough to deal with on Tuesday, so there'll probably be clouds. We'll have to wait for the upper trough to go by for the winds to really pick up, which they will do later in the day on Tuesday, and then for the temperatures to drop. Wednesday looks like the coolest day of the week, and then we'll start to moderate a bit as we go into Thursday and Friday. You'll notice that there's some action dropping down from Canada into the northern Rockies with some snow there along about late Wednesday, Thursday, up into Wyoming and into Colorado. And then you've got this low that comes out, and you see the storms that form on Friday from Illinois to Michigan, back southwestward into Oklahoma. And then that weather front again pushes to the east on Saturday. Europeans not overly bullish on it. Maybe there'll be a pass of showers when it goes by, or maybe a thunderstorm, or then again, maybe not. And then you had a nice dry high that builds in for Sunday, so that'll be good. And then beyond that, there is a storm, maybe we're talking about next Sunday where we could see a deepening storm in the plains that runs up into the Great Lakes. It's got a 988-ish low that winds up going from northwest Texas on up into Minnesota. So that could wind up being a more important severe weather producer, but we'll wait till a few days before we start laying judgment on that one. So I guess maybe you could go ahead and play your little surprise for today.
Oh, well, okay. What this is, I was doing some, I was one of those people uh, who, during the 1970s and 80s, whenever there was active weather, I'd always have my tape recorder nearby. And so I made recordings, what we call air checks. And didn't have a VCR back in 1978, but I did have a cassette tape recorder. And I did make an audio tape of the day of on both television and radio of the Great Blizzard of '78. And what you're about to see, and I also did a little bit of PowerPoint for with a few graphics just to go along with the sound. Uh, that storm system hit on a Monday, and it hit in the morning. And Jim Jensen, who was at that time the newscaster, the anchor person, not just at CBS, but I think in the immediate tri-state area. I think just behind him was Roger Grimsby and Bill Butel on Channel 7. And, Jim Jensen was on for 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock in the evening. This day, with the knowledge of knowing a massive snowstorm was heading for New York, he was on at 9 a.m. And Joe, you'll hear he makes reference to his co-anchor, John Tesh, who today John Tesh is well known more for his music, for his piano playing and a little bit of singing and occasional radio shows. But back then, he was an up-and-coming newscaster, and he was working at Channel 2 with Jim Jensen on this particular day. But 9 o'clock in the morning, I think it was February the 7th, 1978, and here we have Jim Jensen announcing the beginnings of the snow, and they had Alan Casper, Joe Whitty, Mr. G was on Channel 2 in those days, but the first person they led off with was Alan Casper, who was outside the CBS Broadcast Center on 57th Street. I remember watching on TV, it looked like light to moderate snow was falling and was also very gusty and windy, and Alan was reporting from outside that day. And so what you're going to hear now is Alan's report on the blizzard, the beginnings of the blizzard of 1978. So let me just get this set up here.
You do that. I got to go grab a water. I'll be right back.
Okay. So while Joe grabs his water, let me get the screen share. I just made just a few graphics to go along with the sound that you're going to hear. I did not, have any video. I just have sound. But again, I think you'll all find this most interesting. So here we go. This is, again, the blizzard of 1978. And the first person you'll hear talking, well, not the first person, but you'll hear this announcer for the CBS News. And we'll lead into the legendary Jim Jensen.
Channel 2 News, the winter of '78, a special report with Jim Jensen and John Tesh. Here is correspondent Jim Jensen.
Good morning. Well, here we go again. Another major snowstorm has moved into the greater New York area, and it is blizzard-like conditions once again threatening to paralyze the entire area. The officials of the city have already declared a limited snow emergency. Now, that means snow tires or tire chains are required if you drive on the snow emergency streets, which are the streets designated by those red signs, or any highway. As I said, the streets with the red signs. Channel 2's weather experts, all three of them, Joe Whitty, Alan Casper, and Tchaikovsky, have been monitoring this big storm in the weather center since the early morning hours, matter of fact, since last night. Alan Casper is outside right now for a first-hand check on conditions. Alan?
Hi, how are you? I'm out here, standing here in snowy 57th Street, and I'm just at this very second getting a gust of wind which must be over 25 to 30 miles an hour. We're standing here on 57th Street, even though the wind is coming out of the north-northeast, which is the direction that my hand is pointing to. Here on 57th Street in Manhattan, the wind has a tendency of funneling up the street from the west, but it is bad out here. As you can see behind me, the cars are moving along. As far as we can tell at this hour, Joe, of course, in a matter of moments will have the exact details, but as far as we can determine, 3 to 4 inches of snow has fallen around the greater New York area, a little bit more to the south, a little bit less along eastern and central Long Island, and a little bit less perhaps to the north in Rockland and Westchester County. Right now, in terms of visibility, it must be only a half or 3/4 of a mile, and with a surface temperature here in New York City of about 22 degrees and a 20-mile-an-hour wind, of course, the wind chill factor is somewhere around 0 or plus or minus a degree or 2 of that. The worst of the storm is yet to come. The snow intensities here in town have just begun to pick up in the last couple of hours, but as we'll see shortly, the snow intensities across southern New Jersey and point south, even as far south as central Delaware near Dover, are really increasing rapidly. Driving conditions here in town, not bad. Of course, speed limits are reduced on most of the major thoroughfares. It is insanity to drive if you don't have to. Please don't. One point of reference that I might like to say before I throw it back to you in the studio, professionally speaking, and this is not blowing my own horn, but blowing the horn of every professional meteorologist here in New York City, this is the first storm in my recent memory that was forecasted, a big one now, that was forecasted 24 to even 48 hours in advance. Usually over the last 10, 20, 30 years, as you very well know, and much as I hate to admit, we've had snow situations where we forecast 3 or 4 inches and we wind up upping, and then we wind up with 12 to 18. But as far as we can tell, 12 inches is just about a certain bet everywhere. It wouldn't surprise me to see 15 or 18 inches, and as I said, took it on the chin a little bit from the last storm, and certainly over the last 10 and 20 years, we've certainly made up for it today by the forecasting accuracy of everyone, and I couldn't be prouder, to use a corny expression. Back to whomever in the studio, I think Joe.
Wow. So that was just the beginning of wall-to-wall live coverage on Channel 2, and I think all the stations in New York, and it was pretty amazing because if you lived during that era in the 1970s, and Joe will back me up on this, if we were to get in New York City a 3 to 6 inch snowfall, that was something to say hallelujah. I mean, we rarely ever saw big snowfalls in that decade in the New York area. And this was coming, this storm that we just heard was coming on the heels of a similar storm 2 weeks earlier that dumped, and that storm was one that Alan had referred to. That was the one where we were supposed to have mostly rain. It turned out to be mostly snow, and it was a surprise 15-inch snowstorm. And now all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, here we are again, as Jim Jensen said, here we go again with another major first-class snowstorm. I could tell you that at my house in Throgs Neck, Joe, even though the forecasts were for 12 to 18, as Alan had alluded to, and you figure, oh my God, he's going off the wall with that, I had 22.2 inches of snow in Throgs Neck. And there were some places out on Long Island that had even more than that. And in a portion of Rhode Island, further to the east and north, they had, I think it was up near Warwick, Rhode Island, 50 inches of snow. 50 inches. And this was not a lake effect. This was a synoptic storm that provided incredible snow amounts. So that was one for the books. We all will remember that who lived through it. And what more can I say except that was a memorable event. And maybe down the road I'll play some more of the air checks I have from other TV and radio sources, because it was, again, an absolutely amazing storm. And I hope none of you out there who are snow lovers are shedding tears right now. Maybe someday your day will come, but it didn't happen this year. Maybe it'll happen next winter or sometime in the winters down the road.
Yeah, well, I mean, we went from 69 to 78. 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77. So 8 years without a 1 foot, without a 10-inch snowfall or more, at least measured in New York City anyway. And also, then you look at from 1983, you had to wait till almost 1993. You had 9 winters without a major snowfall. So. And we actually had a 10-incher back 3 years ago. It's already 3 years, I think. Was it 21 or February of 21 or February of 22? I forget. I think it was February of 22. So it's it's not guaranteed every year. It doesn't work that way. You get stretches where it seems to happen all the time, and then you get like from 2000 to 2020. And then you get stretches like we had in the 70s and the 80s and in the 90s. So get over it. It's cyclical.
William Jersey Shore on the chat board says, "Really thought Joe Rayo hates snow." We're not talking about now. We're talking about 1978, William Jersey Shore.
Well, William's Jersey Shore can't possibly be over the age of 30, judging from some of the comments that he has.
Joe and I were probably two of the biggest snow lovers at that time, and those were the days when we really were like jumping up and down and screaming, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I can't speak for Joe, but now I'm a lot older than I was back in 1978. I have a home. I have family. I have property. I have a long driveway. And even though I have a very nice snowblower, which does the job, I still don't like going out in anything more than 3 or 4 inches to push snow around. I mean, and again, we're talking about a snowfall in '78, which dumped, oh my goodness, at least a couple of feet of snow most everywhere around the tri-state area, even more on eastern Long Island, and again, 50 inches in parts of southern New England. So I don't need that anymore. I had my thrills, I had my chills back in my younger days. And yeah, Jason Schaefer, I was a little more spry when that storm came back in 1970. I might also point out I had a corner house. I lived on a corner house in Throgs Neck. So not only did I have to shovel, and I just had a shovel. I didn't have the snow blower. Not only have to shovel the front in front of the stairs, in front of the steps, I had to do also the side of the house, in front of the lawn, and then I also had to do the entire side of the side street, where, because that was the rule. I mean, you had to shovel within 24 hours and get the snow out of the way, or else you might get ticketed. So uh, but those were the days, my friends. We thought they'd never end, and that was quite a year, 1978.
Yep. You got Briller Jeopardy?
I do have Briller Jeopardy. Mr. Briller, who was so kind to hit the tip jar earlier in the show. Let me just get it in front of me here, and we shall
Excuse me.
proceed with that. And let's see. Oh, this is interesting. This is not weather related. Actually, Joe, you know what he should have done? Scott should have sent you these questions because I'm a big fan of this show. I don't know if you are, but this we're going to take a spring break from weather on Briller Jeopardy on TV shows. This one dedicated to Krishnapedia. She
Oh,
has
not Little House on the Prairie.
all right, I won't say that, but it's true.
Uh, yeah, I'm going to sit this one out. So go ahead.
All right. So here it is for all of you on the chat board. Number one, and Krishnapedia will probably get all of these if she's on the chat board. Number
She's
one,
there.
what was Carrie's imaginary friend called? Carrie's imaginary friend.
Well, let's see what the chat board has to say about this. Tyler Fienga said Duke. Brady G111 says he doesn't remember. William Jersey Shore said Prairie. Tyler Fienga said Froggy.
Froggy.
Harold Olson said Delilah.
Scott said, "This is for me." LOL, Joe. Send them to Joe. Well, I mean, it's if you we know that you're a big fan. So what was Carrie's imaginary friend called? Christopedia. Ha ha ha.
Frank R said Jack.
No, Jack was. Well, that's another question.
Christinapedia said Alyssa.
Alyssa. That's correct. Absolutely. All right.
And so
What
did
was
Lou Arizio.
I'm a fan to a degree, but some of these questions I didn't know. This is question number two. What was Caroline or Ma Ingalls? What was Caroline really serving for most episode dinners?
Mush. Uh, Dinty Moore beef stew.
Dinty Moore beef stew is correct. Now,
Although Chuck Cardillo raccoon probably would be available. Porridge would be for breakfast, Harold Olson.
yeah, I think.
Yeah, and John Melander, I don't think they have access to crab legs.
I like Vincent Croce, Rayo's homemade sauce. No.
Right.
Number three, what was the name of their original dog? And somebody has already posted that on the chat board for another question.
Let's see.
Yes.
Jack.
Jack.
Everybody's going Jack.
Jack. That's absolutely correct. And you know what? There are only a few episodes that actually made me shed tears on
I
Little House,
know this story. Yes.
and the one where Jack dies is one of those episodes. So
Okay.
anyway, here a much better question. What was the name of the dog that came after Jack? That's not one of the questions that's posted here. But what was the one that replaced Jack? Yeah, you're right.
Bandit.
Bandit. That's correct.
Messinapedia strikes again.
Yes. What was the highest place Little House on the Prairie finished in the yearly Nielsen rating? The highest. They were in the top 10, but what was the highest rating that they ever got?
I'll take a guess at this. Number 3.
No, not that quite high.
Okay.
Everybody said third. Now,
Tyler
Tyler,
Fengus at 7.
that's right. Tyler Fengo, you're right. Seventh place, season 4. No, they never did, Christian Petey. I know much to your regret. They never did hit number 1, but they did get up to 7th place, and they usually were in the top 10. And finally, the last question, another sad episode. How did Mary go blind?
How did Mary go blind? Hmm. Boy, that makes my mind dance in all sorts of different directions. But
No, not in
it
real
was a
life.
family. It was a family show, so I won't go down that particular road. Um,
On the show, Christopedia, not in real life. She never went blind in real life.
no, no.
No,
And Harold Olsen, I don't think it was pink eye. And
no,
Tyler Franken, no, she didn't stick a needle in
no,
her
needle.
eye.
No.
No.
Wait
Did
a minute.
she
Yes,
have
she
some
did.
kind of? Didn't she have like scarlet fever or something,
That I think you are more correct than the actual answer, Mr. Chiaffi.
or
He's.
rheumatic fever or something like that?
I think it was scarlet fever.
Scarlet fever. Maggie
But the
P agrees with me with scarlet fever. In those
right
days, everybody got scarlet fever,
the answer that
and you
Scott
died of
posted
consumption.
was typhoid fever, but I don't believe that is correct. I think it was scarlet fever. Yes.
Scarlet fever. All right. All right. Well, that was interesting. I got to sit back because I have, I saw a few episodes here and there, but it was never my cup of tea.
Yes.
That's the sort of show. I need a show where everybody dies at the end. Then I'm happy.
No, the best episode was the last episode where they blew the whole town up.
Well, see, now I would have enjoyed that.
And you know who played the villain in that episode? I don't
No.
know the actors. I don't know who the actor's name is, but he was very popular here in the New York tri-state area. He was the one who did the Pathmark commercials, the bespeckled
Oh, and he was also in.
MASH. He was also in MASH. He
No,
played
he was also in Poltergeist. He was
okay,
the he was the he was the real estate guy who's basically sold out the cemetery land and developed it. Um, yeah, let's
right.
see.
When
We can
he
find this out. Hold on a second. I'll just pull up. I'll just look at Poltergeist movie. The cast. Hang on a second. La 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 la. Starring Joe Beth Williams, Craig T. Nelson, and Beatrice Straight. Where's the rest of the cast here? Do you remember the name of the character, Joe?
on Little House.
No, no, no. The guy, the villain.
No, I don't. Yeah, well, I'm talking about the Little House on the Prairie. He was the villain, and in fact, it's funny you mentioned about being a real estate guy or whatever, an evil guy. On
Hmm.
Little House on the Prairie, he managed to buy up the entire land that Walnut Grove was on, and then he came into town and presented himself to everybody and saying, "I now own this land, and I now own everything that all of you people have your homes on." And so they got back at him. They just said, "The hell with you," and they blew everything up. They blew all their homes up, and then they marched out. Uh, Marched out of the out of what was left of the town. Um, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I mean, I see who the male actors are, but they're not. And they named the character that they were playing. But I don't recognize. I think it might be. Um, No, I don't think so. They got all these other people here. Dr. Richard Ryan,
Oh, Roger Bowen.
Roger Bowen.
Roger Bowen, comedic actor and novelist, best known for his portrayal of Colonel Henry Blake. He has often portrayed roles as a stuffy defender of the upper class and has had regular roles in a number of television series. And I think he was the guy, yeah, he was definitely the guy who was on
No,
all of
he's
those.
not listed. He's not listed here in the credits. Let me just take a look at something. Uh, okay. I don't know how it knew I was looking for this one. Oh, it's not him. I'll have to figure it out because I'm not seeing. What was that name again?
Roger Bowen.
Roger Bowen. He's not listed in the credits here. Maybe they were two different people that kind of looked alike. Let's see. Hold on. Roger B-O. What was it? W-E-N or Bohem? B-O-H-E?
Bowen.
Let me take the. Hang on a second. Let's see if I can. Yeah, it kind of looks like him, but he's not listed on the credits for Poltergeist, so it must be a different. There must be two actors that kind of look alike. Never mind.
Oh well.
Oh well is
Apparently,
right.
and he passed away at the rather young age, 63.
Oh,
Passed away way back in 1996.
gotcha. Um, and Pathmark passed away when?
Who passed away when?
Well, you said he did the Pathmark commercials.
That's what I said, and he passed away at age 63 in
No, but then
19.
Pathmark was bought by A&P, and then they
I
went
don't,
out. And then they went out of business.
yeah.
All right, enough. Time to go to bed. Tomorrow is Monday, so everybody have a great night. Hope you enjoy tonight's show, and we will see you tomorrow night at the usual time, 7:35. Okay.
Good night, folks.
Bye bye.